Hello. In this lesson, I would like to answer some questions that we saw in Pronto. And this question is about, I hope I understood the question well. This question is about when, so let me bring up the Pronto, right? The question, so we can maybe clarify the question, at least from my perspective, and you can get back to me about whether this will address to your questions. Okay, so just 1 second. I'm starting up the Pronto and bring up the question. Okay, so this is the question. Let me share screen. Where's my Pronto? Pronto should be not here. Oh, right here. Okay, so here's the Pronto question. The question says zeros. Okay, the trig class. There we go. I think this might be the place the question is. Actually, I don't see it. Wait, let's see. Just give me a second. So let me clarify this for you. So it's not from this class. Maybe it's from the other class. Huh, it's not here. I see it on my cell phone, the Pronto on the cell phone. And apparently this is from a specific person. So maybe I have to go to a specific person who asked this question. Okay, apparently this question is asked only to me. All right, so here's the question. Okay, so here's the question. As you can see, I hope you guys see this Pronto question right here. It says if it is sine A equals to negative square root of 2/2, right? I think it's the square root. It didn't say what square root of what. Would it still be between negative pi/2 to pi/2? Would it be the whole unit circle? Okay, so I'm going to copy that question and paste it here. Okay, and then I'm going back there because there's another question. Then I answer the question, right? I answer the question. And in my answer, that this question, I hope is clear enough, but just to make sure I clarify it, right? So here's my answer. Okay, I have two answers there. So this one and the next one. Okay, so this is the next answer. And I shall share the screen again so you can see this is the question. Okay, by the way, thank you for asking this question. Okay, thank you for asking this question. So if it's sine A equals to negative square root and divided by 2, okay, so I'm going to modify this as presumably, this is your question, sine A is equals to negative square root of 2/2. If that's your question, of course, it could be any other numbers. It doesn't matter. It says, would it still be between negative pi/2 to pi/2? I don't know what you're talking about between negative pi/2. I assume you're talking about A is between negative pi/2 to pi/2. Okay, so here I'm just making some adjustments to make sure that this is the question, and this is the question being asked. Okay, between negative pi/2 and pi/2. Okay, so this is maybe what you wanted, or would it be the whole unit circle? Would it be the whole unit circle? Okay. So now if this is, so my answer is that if the question started with that, no, A is from the domain of sine. So so my answer, okay, so answer. So what I mean by that, if A is from the domain of sine, right, the answer is no, right? If you mean that A should be between -π/2 to π/2, then A is not only from -π/2 to π/2, it is from the entire domain of sine. Okay, so of course I'm asking you to watch the lessons that we've talked about in class, but regardless, right? This is a very good question, so I'd like to answer the question. So, but you should be watching my lessons anyway. Okay, so now I supplemented that if A is, okay, if A is equals to arcsine of X, okay, and X is in the domain of arcsine, okay, where X is in the domain of arcsine, then A is between -π/2, okay, to π/2 inclusive. Okay, so here the answer. My answer is correct, and I just want to clarify. So first of all, this question reflected some some understanding that's not understanding enough. Okay, so I'm going to clarify. So anytime in your study, okay, so anytime the sine function is referred to, okay, is referred to. Okay, it means the sine function we know of, which has a domain with domain equals to, domain is from -infinity to +infinity. Okay, and of course, you know the range as well. Range, which is, you know, between -1 and +1. Okay, we're clear about that. Now, if statement. So this is an if statement, right? So if sine of this function is equals to -√2/2, okay? The sine function refers to this function unless otherwise specified. Unless otherwise specified. Obviously, there's no otherwise specified here, right? Unless there's no otherwise specified here. What it means, right? So we know that for this function we refer to, right? This sine function here, the graph, right? The graph of this function, we know that it goes from -infinity to +infinity. Okay. We can show more of the curve, right? I'm making it more of the curves, right? So this is the sine curve it refers to. It bounces between -1 and +1. Okay, so sign A is referred to, it means this function. So when this if statement, so for this if statement, what the meaning of this statement, right? If this is true, right? So this question typically show up saying solve for A, right? So the question that asked by the student, he didn't specify what was the question and so on. So I just assume this is the question, solve for A and given this. And this sign refers to the sign function with domain from negative infinity to positive infinity. In other words, it refers to this function. In other words, it refers to the entire unit circle. Okay. Now, what this means is that, right, we talk about the meaning of this, is that we are looking for A, right? A is to be determined. And this A, which we have input, right? A is the input, and this input is applied to the the function applied to the input and produces output. So the output is known, we're looking for inputs. The output is known, we're looking for inputs. Graphically, it means that we draw a horizontal line. Okay, we draw a horizontal line. It crosses the curve. Anywhere at the crossing, there's a solution. So we're looking for solutions from the entire domain of sign. Okay. And that means also, of course, on the unit circle, you're going to find the terminals. You're going to find the terminals, right? Now, so we're going to solve this question before we move on, okay, to explain the other perspective. Okay, so why there's such a confusion and why the second part of my answer? Why the second part of my answer? This piece. Okay, so we're going to get to that. So yes, you look at this entire unit circle. The reason we look at this entire unit circle because it's a little bit easier, especially this is a special angle. It's a little bit easier for us to identify. So in this case, so let me draw. Okay, so I'm going to give you a complete answer to this question, but also addressing some of the important. And this is also applicable to all the other situations. Okay, sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this unit, this is the rectangular system. Okay, so I'm just making some adjustment to the rectangular system, and you're thinking of ARD, and I'm thinking of ARD, and I expect you to think of ARD as well, right? So we want the output to be negative root 2 over 2. So we identified there are two terminals, right? There are two terminals. So one is here, and there's another one is over there, okay? And the blue numbers are negative root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. So all of any angle that terminates on either of these terminals, they will produce sine of those angles equals to, negative root 2 over 2. Okay, so I'm going to draw these. I'm going to draw this on this other one because I cannot draw over without having to do it over and over. So just give me a little bit more time. So this is going to be so okay, here's 0, 0. Let me first draw the terminal root 2 over 2. And root 2 over 2. And of course, in the third terminal, that's in the third quadrant, that's the terminal, right? And there's another one in the in the other one. So these are the two terminals. Okay, we know there's a blue number, so that there's a blue number, red number, right? So the blue, so let me draw the blue. So that's gonna be, there's one blue here. Right, that should be the blue. And let me draw the blue. The next one, there's another blue. The two blues, whoops. Ah. This blue. And the next, oops, the next blue. Oh, my bad. Okay, so make the blue thicker. Make the blue thicker. There you go. So these are the two blues, right? So once we have identified the terminals, then we can have the solutions pretty much at our fingertips. So one solution, so we have two solutions, and one of the solutions we can write it down, and the answer, yes, you look at the entire unit circle in these circumstances. Okay, so let me just finish. This terminal can be expressed as negative pi over 4. Of course, that's not the only way to express it. There's many ways to express it, right? Plus 2k pi. And the other one is negative 3 pi over 4 plus 2k pi. Okay, and k is any integer. K is any integer. Okay, so this question is answered. This question is answered. Okay, so this is the answer. Okay, solutions. So solutions are right here. Okay, solutions are right there. Okay, now let's go back. So when this question is asked, okay, when this question was asked, this is if statement looking for input, given outputs, and that's how we do it. Now, I also said, right, if this is the case, right, if this is the case, so I'm going to put it here. If this is the case, right, if X is in a domain of arcsine, for example, right, suppose I have my A equals to, and X is equals to negative root 2 over 2. In this case, you only have one answer. Okay, you only have one answer. And in general, right, the answer, of course, we know that's going to be negative pi over 4. What are we talking about is that this function, arcsine, this arcsine function, okay, arcsine function has a domain. Okay, so this function's domain is between -1 to +1, and the range is between negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2. So this is a negative pi over 2, okay, positive pi over 2. Okay, and of course, in this case, we know that sine, if that's the case, we know that sine of X is going to be what? Is going to be that piece, right? So if this equals to A, and sine of A is equals to X, just like in this case, meaning sine of negative pi over 2 and negative pi over 4 equals to negative root 2 over 2. And this is determined. So this time you're not referring to every angle that equals negative root 2 over 2 because you're talking about this function. This function, if you look at this function here, right? Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to take this picture, right? I'm going to take this picture. And if you draw arc sine, arc sine is only a piece of it. Okay, so arc sine. So I'm going to make it green. Okay, so the range, I need to adjust the so like 6 to make sure that the entire curve is included, right? The entire curve is included. So that's the sine, that's the arc sine piece. So the arc sine piece, okay, the arc sine piece only can produce angles between negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So this sine is a piece of it. Is that a little piece of it? What is that little piece? We talk about it in class. Okay, that piece is this piece, which is the inverse of that arc sine. So only cover that little piece, that these two pieces are inverse to each other. Okay. So it depends on how A is defined. So this A and this A, they're different. They're different. Why they're different? Because this A refers to all the possible input for sine, has a domain from negative infinity to positive infinity. But this A is a consequence of, is a range for arc sine. The range for arc sine is between negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, even though they are both sine A, they're both of sine of angle equals to x, right? But this A refers to only to the angle between negative pi over 2 because the way we defined it. Okay, for example, if I can just make it theta. Let me just make it theta. Are they the same? No, they're not the same. Because this, I know this is this could be confusing. That's why we spend a lot of time talking about the making of arc sine and the making of sine, and we plotted point by point. And this is also the reason I'm asking you to watch the lessons again, because I was trying to make that clear to you. Okay, so now let's summarize for this question. Okay, so in this case, the sine is referred to the sign that defined on all real numbers, and the range is between -1 and 1. So this A is determined entirely by the function that applies to it immediately. Okay, and this other A, if I put this other A, so suppose I put this A, now I change it to theta, right? This A, as the way it's been written, this A belongs to the range of arc sine. The range of arc sine, of course, is between negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. Is that, so if you want a simple answer, this is the simple answer. Okay. If this doesn't answer your question, please let me know, and please bring more questions to me. So now, thank you for watching, and until next time.